Welcome to the Lucidus podcast. I am here today with the lovely Paul Benedict. He has agreed to do the 3 questions. So welcome, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Doing all right?
Thanks so much for having me on here, Shelley.
Yeah, absolutely. So to begin with, where on this globe are you?
Sure, I am in Colorado, outside of Denver,
And how long have you been there?
since July.
Since July, and it is November. So
You got
just
it.
a few months. Yeah.
Just a few months.
And then just to our relationship, how did we meet? How did you and I meet?
Sure, I think Sune, one of our friends, mutual friends, may have introduced us, but we facilitated some offerings together at a cool space in the Sugar House area of Salt Lake. Yeah, and I believe Sune put us together, but I don't recall correctly. Do you recall differently?
No, I actually don't remember either. I think it must have been Sune. I think I was thinking about doing I got some kind of yoga meditation class, and she said, "Oh, I think Paul. Oh, maybe it was the gong. Maybe it was because you played the gong.
Oh, okay.
I think that was it." And she said, "Oh, you should have Paul play the gong during your class." Does that sound about right?
That sounds right.
Okay.
My gong has opened up a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
I can say that. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the gong, and then we went on to do some different types of community offerings, and they were all lovely. So it was always a joy to work with you.
You as
All right.
well.
Okay, so and as far as the 3 questions, same 3 questions I ask everyone, only you're the first person who has asked to know, and you asked for just 1 question. So you know the first question. So I'm going to let you ask the first question before you answer it. What is the first question?
Sure. So the first question, to my understanding, is what is something that you didn't know in the past that you know now that you wish you would have known? Is that correct?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so the word belonging kept coming to me in thinking about this. Brene Brown has this, she talks about belonging a lot. And one of the things she said about fitting in, you can think of opposite of belonging, is we do a lot of assessments of a situation and then we adjust ourselves to meet those assessments. Um, and she talked about belonging in a way that was like this art between finding the sacredness within a community and then also finding a way to have the courage to stand out even within that group, right? And so I think the reason I bring that up is because I'd say for the first, so I'm 43 now, I'd say for at least the first 3.5 decades, I was pretty sure I was never going to belong anywhere for some reason. And those were some of my earliest memories, feeling a bit like an alien, feeling a bit like I really didn't belong anywhere. And other people, because I was so sensitive, they just didn't know what to do with me. And so I felt this kind of, the word that's coming to mind now is like that I was a little bit of a freak, right? And so I was bullied at school regularly, pushed around, things like that. And I learned very quickly to assess and adjust. Like I did not want that to happen. And I'll do whatever it takes to get that to stop from happening. So I really, I wanted to belong, but I was also scared to belong at the same time. And I think the thing that I'm starting to experience now as I get more really deeply connected to myself is that, in a way I've always belonged. Maybe not in the way that I think I wanted to at that time. Um, but that there is a place for me on this planet, just like there's a place for everyone else on this planet. And I didn't have to kind of fit myself into what I thought was the way to navigate living. And so I think the challenge for me now is getting back to that art of finding the communities that I think will support my development, that both love me and are committed to my growth, and that I'm contributing to those same people in that community in that same way, giving them that same experience. Because I've had therapists that have loved me before but weren't committed to my growth. And I've been in certain training environments that were very committed to my growth, but there was no love present. And so I feel like I can find those communities that bring me both of those elements, and I can bring both those elements with me to the other people in that community. And also the other side of it is finding out, like, what's my voice, even though there's groupthink in this community. How am I going to stand on my own and belong in and of myself, right? Without jeopardizing any of my values, without sacrificing because the group feels a certain way. How am I going to maintain my own truth, my own identity within a community? And I think that the thing that seems to help me the most with that one of the things I lost touch with the most as a kid is I stopped playing outside for a long time, reclaimed that as an adult. And there's something about being in nature where there's no ticket to get in there. You know, you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to be a member, nothing. You can just walk out in nature and you immediately belong and you feel it because there's no judgment from the trees. There's no judgment from the animals or the plants that you see out there. You are just there, bearing witness to nature, as beautiful as it is, and then having nature bear witness to you, purely in our essence, in our pure being, not adulterated, nothing else going on. So I wish I knew how much I belonged being here, and I can't physically go back and hug that kid, but I can, in a subtle way, go back and remind him that, like, boy, you belong so much here, you don't even know it.
I love the tone of your voice when you just said this. When you just said that, that was really great. I could hear. It was interesting because I heard a sudden playfulness, as though you were really talking to a kid. Like, you have no idea how much I like that. That's sweet. So you said something that I'd like to ask about. You said that you were afraid. As much as you wanted to belong, you were also afraid to belong. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it would have been too. I think I could handle the fake person being told no. The persona that I was putting on to the world. Mm-hmm. But I had a real difficult time with what I thought was getting a no from who I really was. And so that was the fear of actually showing up who I am, even though I don't know, I'm confused, but I'm just showing up the best that I am in that moment and being told, yeah, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I could get into a larger discussion about what I think is the loss of innocence today, or people or institutions and structures trying to destroy that sense of innocence that we have, because we shouldn't fucking know everything. We should be curious, we should be in inquiry. So I think that there was getting down to my answer maybe is like I felt like my innocence might be destroyed in trying to belong.
Yeah. And another thought I had, just want to say that's really beautiful. I'd never thought of it that way, but I really resonate with that. And then the next thing I wanted to inquire about was, what does it feel like inside of you when you belong? What does that feel like? What is that for you?
I was working with someone recently. So one of the things I do is I coach people that are in recovery from addiction. So I use different modalities and techniques to support their evolutionary journey in staying free from whatever substance or behavior they've been addicted to. And this person that I was working with, they were talking about some of their codependent tendencies, but they were like, when I rock climb, there's this relationship that I have with the mountain that just feels perfect. And I feel perfect in that moment when I'm climbing a mountain. I don't feel like there's anything like I would change about the experience or anything I would change about myself. I feel perfect, whole, complete. And so when I feel like real belonging, whether I'm, on my own meditating or I'm in a group where I really feel the love and commitment to each other, I get that same sense that he was talking about, that there's no project to manage. I worked in project management for years. It's very difficult not seeing myself as a fucking project. But there's no project to manage. There's nothing to fix. For me, it's just like, it just feels like grace. And there's nothing for me to do. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean there's not actions that I take, but that connecting to that part of myself that, is eternal, that part of myself that is just loving and accepting of myself and others, and it just feels like absolute perfection.
Yeah, my experience of belonging is very much associated with how I feel, less so what's, some exchange that's happening on the outside, but how I feel. So, and then the other thing I wanted to ask about was, you mentioned that space where you're both true to your own self, but also a part of the collective. Do you feel like that inner barometer is in a healthy place so that you navigate that well today?
Today, I'd say it's a work in progress. I'm going through a big change in the last year and a half about my own kind of identity and who I am and what sort of presentation I'm going to have in this world. And the cool thing about it is also I feel like I'm getting closer to what I'm really here to do, the type of work that I'm really interested in, and how I can support people during my time on this planet. But I'd say that because of that sort of process that's going on, it's more difficult for me to be established in a particular identity. And so I'm on a scale where I'm kind of flowing and I'm not really sure where I'm going to operate it. Never that I'm always going to be in a fixed point and remain somewhere. But because of that, it's a little bit more challenging, so I notice I'm more hesitant to raise my hand or point something out or maybe speak my truth than maybe I normally would. But I think for me, it's about, so if I'm in, let's say, a large group of people and there's something there that and how I currently am right now, and there's something that I see that I really don't like that I think is making the space feel unsafe or whatever, I may go to someone that I trust and that I feel comfortable with, as opposed to someone who might be actually leading it. And I might say, hey, listen, this is what's coming up for me. I don't know if I have it in me to actually speak to the person running it right now. Like, really. And that's okay. You know what I mean? That's totally okay. Because it's just like I feel like there's a balance between how, like, my enhancing my own perception of life versus my expression about what comes out. And I'm feeling like this recent period has been more about enhancing my own perception. What am I perceiving? What am I feeling? What do I need to kind of release, let go of? Not so much about what my message is for the world, which is ironic I'm speaking to you right now. But I think finding a way that feels safe enough, because I don't want to just kind of push things down. I eventually need a way for things that I have difficulty with or problems with or issues with to find some expression. Yeah.
So in that vein of you wanting to belong, are there any specific things you can think of that you do to help others feel like they belong with you in certain situations?
Sure. I mean, I think I remember when we created some participation agreements for certain things we were facilitating. I think if people read content like that and then go, yeah, I'm going to walk into the room still, I think that is sort of an acknowledgement that, like, they're making a choice to be there. They understand what to expect, and they're saying yep. And so in some ways there's some ways of creating a safe space in the culture that you frame for the space itself. I think one thing I'm learning lately is sometimes when I think people are done talking, they're not done. And so I've been encouraged to maintain a silence even when they're done speaking, to see, like, is there something else that wants to come out? My silence because this is what people have done for me, like, and I've noticed other people have done for me. They've created silence for me after I'm done talking, expecting for them to say something, and then something else comes up. So I think really understanding, like, really being careful about what words I use when I'm kind of holding space or holding a container or being with people, especially people that are going through something very, very, very difficult. Not a lot of words are usually needed, and it's more just about me listening as attentively as I can. This thing came to me journaling the other night where it was like, we're so divided as people, and we don't give other people any undivided attention. We are like, there's no listening anymore. There's no room for it. And I really, I feel like me developing better listening skills, being really careful about what I say, establishing the right culture and for what people are walking into. Those are some things that I think have been helpful.
For a moment, I'd like to wrap back to the participation agreements that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You and I spent a lot of time coming up with the participation agreements to make sure that the people felt safe when they came to our events, because we were asking them to be quite vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, 5-6 months ago, I was listening to a podcast with Brene Brown, and she said in her culture, they no longer talk about a safe space.
Mm.
She said, which is something I had thought of much longer ago, but I didn't really try to push the issue because there wasn't sort of room I didn't have the words to express it, but she did. And she said, you can't ever tell anyone it's a safe space because anybody could walk into any space and immediately feel unsafe, right? Like she said, it just doesn't exist. So she said, in our culture now, we talk about a respectful space. So I'd like to bring that back to the belonging question, and because it's something I've been asking myself. So if I'm in a situation and I don't necessarily feel safe in the situation, but I am being respected, do I belong? Like, is belonging tied to a sense of safety, or is respect enough? Do you have thoughts on that?
There's this book by, it's somewhere here, but I really like the question. I really like the question, and I like the idea because I come from a history and recovery where our groups have this tradition. We don't have any opinions on outside issues, right? We exist for one reason: to help people get sober. That's it. That's the only reason we exist, is just to help people get sober. And so in that way, it's a very respectful space because people are able to talk about some of the trials and tribulations that are impacting them in the world in a respectful way. And there's this one promise in this particular 12-step program that talks about taking care of our own needs while being respectful to others. And so I think there is a way to do that, to like be vulnerable with the group, let the group share our pain in a respectful way. But getting back to that book, there's this like Celtic spirituality book that I have that talked about like if the soul is really in turmoil, what is the right word? Give me a second. If the soul's really in turmoil, it doesn't want anyone to take issue with it. And so it doesn't really want it does want to be recognized in some sense, but it doesn't want anyone to take any issue with it. And so it sounds like in a respectful space that there could be someone in the room that might be like, I think I know what they're talking about by not liking XYZ in the world, right? But they're not going to go and actually take issue with it verbally, or they'll send them a text afterwards, blah, 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 or whatever, right? And so I think that that might be a better way of framing it. I'd have to sit with it. But I like it. I like the idea. You could argue that. I mean, I've been in circles before where someone's come and just really thrown a wrench in everything, and no matter what you write, it doesn't matter, and no matter how you carry yourself or the instructions you give, it happens anyway, and that's not to anyone's fault. And so I think there's always a chance for that. Yeah, I think a lot of the, avoiding where people coach or crosstalk in group settings usually is a way of creating a safe or respectful place where you just let people give their piece and take care of your own needs, be respectful for what you say, how you say it.
So if I'm understanding you, it does seem like, from what you've said, a respectful space could be a space of belonging, even if you don't necessarily feeling safe.
Yes, I didn't entirely answer your question, but yes.
No, but yeah.
I think that, where I don't feel, there were environments that I was in growing up where I did feel shunned or banished, and it wasn't just a story. It wasn't just, oh, this is my story. It was like, no, like we don't know what to do with you. You're weird, you're too sensitive, blah, 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 right? And so if I were to be in a group like that now, I would not say I was belonging. But there might be some people in the group that feel that way, and I could still feel enough love and support, and good group energy that would make me still feel like I was belonging. It doesn't need to be completely perfect, but I think it's more about like how I feel when I'm there. Do I actually feel like I'm being respected here? And do I feel like I'm respecting someone else, or am I rolling my eyes when people are talking? You know, and so I can do the same thing. I can make other people feel like they aren't belonging as well.
Mhm.
But if I just,
Yeah.
you know, thinking that I know everything, so.
Um, well, I love this conversation because it's actually challenging me. I wasn't expecting that. In that I have always, I said earlier in the conversation, belonging for me has always been like a feeling.
Mhm.
Like if I feel safe in whatever else I feel, then I belong. But as we were talking, I was like, wait, like belonging, you can belong to a group of people that respect you. That's not necessarily a feeling, right?
Mhm.
So it's interesting for me to sort of pull apart my desire for feeling safe, pull that out of belonging. They're different things, or they're possibly different things.
Yeah, it's so I'd say there have been times when um, it wasn't the room that made me feel unsafe. I think it was just where I was at, and it was difficult for me to settle in, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it doesn't mean that like, um, you know, maybe it's more of like where belonging feels possible when I'm in those states, you know, and so I give something another try. Like, hey, this could be a good environment. Um, I've been in other places where it just didn't. I just knew it didn't feel right, and it wasn't what was going on with me. It just wasn't right for me. Um, and I think to the extent that I can let other people belong where they think they belong, um, it sort of, I feel like it helps me in some sense just let go of this expectation of what belonging is supposed to look like, because I have this sense that like here's what it looks and feels like for me. It's got to be like that everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so it can be some frustration where I'm like, see how much belonging doesn't exist in the world because I only feel it in these places. And it's like, well, if you ask other people, they feel like they belong else, you know, in what they're doing. So, um, I think if I'm feeling unsafe or having difficulty belonging, for me, I go back to nature because that is the easiest place for me to feel a sense of belonging. Um, and it helps me in my relationships with people when I'm spending a lot of time outside, just because I feel so safe, so secure. I feel a lot more trusting, a lot more confident in myself, a lot more capable, and I'm spending time in a place that is that that the only thing that goes on in nature is truth. There's no BS. There's no social media. There's no like reporters like, you know, trying to whatever. It's just like there's no noise out there. And so because part of my issue with belonging is just my own noise, my own stories that I have to work out. And when I get out there, I'm just reminded, crap, like everything is okay. Like I have space on this planet that, and it's okay for me to be here. And I don't need to wait for some spaceship to come down and take me away to my real home anymore.
Hmm. Um, I've loved this conversation on belonging. I can't think of anything else to add. Is there anything else you'd like to add to it?
No, just thank you. And yeah, to anyone that's listening to this, hang in there.
You belong. You
Yeah,
belong.
you belong. You really do.
Okay, question number 2.
Oh shit, that
Oh,
was just the first one.
that was the first one. That was the first
We're
one.
all good.
We're good.
Yeah, plenty of
This,
time. We're fine.
yeah, and so this one is much on the same vein, and it is, what is something you're learning now in your life?
Hmm. Something I'm learning now. Um, that there's so much richness in spending time, a little bit of time in the darkness, not with an intention of staying there and letting it just completely overwhelm me. Um, but I think that there's times that are some of the most transformational where I feel like I'm reduced to rubble, where I'm kind of just feel like life's coming at me from so many different places, and but I've found so much possibility in exploring the depth of my own pain and darkness, the things that I've really buried for so long that are just making their way to the surface, in the last couple of years, that I'm really taking a more contemplative and intentional look at. I think growing up, as a lot of people, we were just trying to put on a good face for the neighbors, and give an impression that everything was going well. Smile. We're at church. Talk to these people. I don't want to talk to them. Talk to them. And so I really think that the richness from my experience has been going to the places that I don't want to go to, the places that I'm been wired to avoid, and not listen to and not be curious about, and to just go there and spend some time there, and just see what comes up. And it can be painful just sitting alone, breathing without a particular mantra, without a particular meditation, and just saying, I'm gonna sit here with my pain for a few minutes. I'm gonna sit here with my despair for a few minutes. And there's been a lot of source of inspiration out of it, and I sort of see like why some of the, they talk about like being in some challenging and dark times right now. The artists are going to come out and be creative and inspire people, right? And I believe that they will. The writers, the musicians, the poets, they will come out with new material because they're so devastated right now. At least some people are, right? And so there's so much of I think our human creativity it exists in going to those places that are uncomfortable. And it's been difficult to know, I think, just how much has been buried over the years and how much I'm just starting to scratch the surface on some things. But at the same time, there's just been like new waves of creativity for me, new ways of seeing things, accessing a new depth of silence that I hadn't been able to access before. And so I really think if we as a human population can get more in touch with all the ways that grief shows up for us, there is enormous possibility when we allow ourselves to feel that and slowly walk through it, it can be scary, but it's really, really, really powerful. And that's what I'm just starting to really grasp right now, is just the power in spending time with my own grief.
So I have found that people describe darkness differently. I wonder if you have sort of your own personal working definition of darkness, maybe a few adjectives. Like, what is darkness
Hmm.
to you?
Darkness to me is a heaviness. Sometimes I will intentionally wear lighter clothes at night to try to lighten myself up, literally lighten my load, so I can go to bed without feeling any sense of heaviness. I'll do other practices, but my body likes to feel that lightness. The darkness, I feel like, is just this heaviness that I want to avoid. I remember when this was about 12 years ago. I was living with this woman at the time, and I had a very serious drug and alcohol addiction. And she said, she was just like, how do you not see this? How do you not see like how bad your problem is? And it's just like, I won't allow myself to go there. I just won't. I feel like I'm worried that going to where the pain is will destroy me in some way. And I think that there can be a healthy destruction that comes place with the whole concept of Shiva, right? But being the destroyer, or the kind of renewing, in one way, destroying the ego. But this darkness is a place where I'm not safe. That's what's in my head. That's what I believe. I don't believe that it's true, but that's what I think. I can't go there. It's not safe for me to go there. I'm not going to get out. And so in that sense, it's where the untruths lie, the stories, in some ways, the painful experiences that aren't really who I am, that are a part of me, but aren't really my real true identity. Like, my real true identity, I am not an alcoholic or a drug addict, right? Like, yes, did I engage in that behavior? Am I capable of doing those things again? Yes. But my identity today is I'm devoted to something else. I mean, I'm a person in recovery. I'll never be able to drink safely again, but I have a different identity today. And so I think the way for me to go into the heaviness is with a light and gentle and graceful intention that we're going to spend some time here. We're not going to be here too long, and then we're going to leave, and then we'll come back when we need to. This is a regular practice. I heard someone describe their healing experience one time as like walking towards the edge of a cliff, then walking back, and then walking towards the edge of the cliff just a little bit more, and then walking back, and then just continuing very slowly to make their way towards the edge, and then but coming back, right? And so in that way, it's a little bit, it doesn't feel like it's going to destroy me from being like overexposed.
A quote came to mind while you were talking that I want to share and just see if you have any
Sure.
thoughts about it. And it was, I think it was by, I can't remember his name right now, but the gentleman who wrote the Winnie the Pooh series. Do you remember his? I can't think of his name right now.
Neither
But
can I.
I think it was him, and he said, "I never knew grief felt so much like fear."
Mm.
And when you were talking about, you know, the fear of that thing is going to, it's too much, it's going to kill me. I have often felt that fear when I was dealing with a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't take this, it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if you have any thoughts about that quote.
Yeah, I feel like that's where grace comes in, because there's sometimes where I just throw my arms up in the air and I put myself in front of my altar and I'm just like, you got to take over from here. Like, I'm lost. You know, I don't have any answers. I don't even have it in me to sit for a minute right now. I'm in that much pain. And so it and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that when we speak honestly in prayer in such a way, it's really powerful to give ourselves that freely up and just go, I got nothing. It doesn't mean we're not in control of anything, but there are certain moments where it's just like, you know, what made you think I was capable of walking on the planet with this around? You know, and kind of how dare you type of thing. Yeah, I think grief can feel a lot like, it can feel a lot like fear. And it can be really scary to go to the places that we've banished, that we're told to not go, we're told to ignore. We're told to just be more productive and to, you know, just keep going, regardless of what it feels like. And but one of my teachers says if we can, if we're conditioned into something, we can condition ourselves out of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay, so if I distill what you're learning right now, you're learning to go into or toward your darkness, which some words I would use for that is heavy, pain, grief. Those are some words I think I remember hearing. But you do so in a manner that's more like walking closer and closer to the cliff and looking over, but you don't spend a lot of time there. You move back. So learning to be closer to your darkness and spending times also in recovery, so to speak, recovering from the view over the cliff. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
I think to deal with big things that I feel like that can come up for a lot of us in our lifetimes, big events or whatever they may be, revelations. I do think it's really important to spend an extended period of time in an intentional setting with other people that are also devoted and come with their own set of intentions, meaning going on an extended retreat or something where you can have a bigger release that can open more doors, make it feel more possible to take on this kind of daily endeavor of just slowly tending to the things that are troubling us. Because it can, I mean, I literally had to, earlier this year, I had to leave home for about a month because I'm like, I don't like, this has been going on for too long. I need like a long a long, deep exposure into something really profound, and I got that, and so I'll just offer that to people that that can be really helpful to help support some of the daily stuff that can seem overwhelming at times, is like a really long like exposure to a retreat or some sort of intentional setting where you can have a bigger release and community, and when people can bear witness to your tears, because grief is never meant to be private. When people can bear witness to your tears, it's so much better than crying alone. Not that there's anything wrong with crying alone. I've done plenty of it. But there's something about being witnessed just in the depth of your grief in front of other people that's really, really profound and brought a lot of resilience in for me.
It reminds me, have you heard of the Sky Cave retreats? I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, Sky Cave. And talk about darkness, literal darkness. So you go into, it's kind of like, I guess I'd call it like a hobbit house without any windows or doors. So it's dug into the earth, and you spend days in absolute pitch darkness by yourself in these little, I would consider it a womb. And the people that I know that have done it, I have yet to do it, but I think I would like to. They say it literally is like a rebirth. I mean, after you spend days in not just solitude, but complete darkness and silence. There's no noise, no light. When you come out, it's just almost surreal to open your eyes and see the world again. So maybe that will be your next jaunt.
Well, I love the idea. I mean, I think there's something wonderful about the evening time when it is dark, and there's certain things we can harness at that time. It's more time for journaling and things like that for me. So we can find a way to own the night in our everyday lives. But yeah, in that setting, even you saying that, but it's definitely brings up a lot for me. Like that would scare me. Definitely scary. There is no way I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. No, like that. That sounds really scary. Potentially very fulfilling, but whew.
Yeah. I've done like I don't care. I've lost count. I don't know if it's 11 or 12 10-day silent Vipassana retreats.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've sat through some storms, but you can always open your eyes, and there's always no. It's like it's very anyway. Yeah, it scares me. Okay, beautiful. I love that. I love what you're learning right now. Okay, the third question. So many, many, many decades from now, you're lying peacefully, or you're sitting in the forest peacefully, and you realize that you're about to pass onward, and you're going to have your final thought. What would you like your final thought to be?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful. We are so lucky. We are so blessed. I wonder if you were in my position and you were asking people questions, is there a question you would ask?
A question I would ask you.
Yeah, if we were swapped and you were going to ask people questions about life.
Oh, okay. Not specific to you. Okay, I got you. Yeah. No, it's a really good question. I was listening to Frank Zappa earlier today on this clip, and someone was asking him, what do you want to be remembered for? And he was just like, that's a stupid idea. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're in the ground. It doesn't matter. The people that want to be remembered, it was ego and things like that. I love Frank Zappa. I think he's awesome. But on this particular question, I felt like there was some. I think it is good to feel like you're leaving a legacy in people's hearts. That like there's something that, like there's teachers that have impacted me so much that I still carry that experience with them in me. But I guess my question would be like, when you think about what you're leaving behind, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
Mm-hmm. And if I asked you that, do you have an answer?
I think I want to be remembered for helping people access grace, not through me, through their own process, but the power of grace to me goes beyond any good deed I might do, any good karma, so to speak, I might be, by all these acts of service that I do in the world that I really feel called to do. But that the reason I feel like I'm still alive is because of grace. Every action that I took was trying to put myself in the ground. I'm very fortunate to be alive. There's been some close calls, let's just say, and I'm not the only one. And so there have been other people who have helped me access, my own sense of grace, have experiences of grace while I'm here. And if I can do the same for other people, that to me would be a very fulfilling life.
I definitely have had times when grace has taken the wheel, and I no longer could do anything. And definitely felt guided by grace, but also protected by grace, delivered, to where I needed to be so I could continue my journey.
Mm-hmm. Damn straight.
Well, Paul, I'm glad that grace has also offered you her hand and that you are here and that you're sharing the beauty, the rawness, the realness, the depth, the willingness. So many traits in you I admire, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. Just here on this planet.
Coming right back to belonging, bringing it right back. So thank you for doing this, for asking me, for doing the work that you do in the world, for carrying yourself how you carried yourself. I always felt very inspired being around you. And and I've always, without knowing your story, I'm just like, this is this person has so much wisdom because of all of their lived experience, and it's just a felt sense you get being around you. So, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna share with I'm gonna share how we reconnected. So Paul and I lost touch for a few. I don't know how long it's been since we've got in touch. And you happened to reach out a few days ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a phone call, and we had a bit of an arm wrestle as we both talked about our recent trials, and we both kind of were like, it was like the Job checklist. Like, no, I got you. No, I got you. Oh, I got you. I got you. So yeah, so Paula and I have had we have robust journeys, I would say. We have robust journeys. So, and if you haven't had a robust journey, it's difficult to understand. The same way it's difficult for me to understand someone who has not had many challenges in their life. So it is definitely a place of belonging for me when I can share the fullness of my journey, and not have someone go cross-eyed or run away or look at me like I've done something wrong or I'm the most cursed, somehow karmically ill individual ever. So, so thank you for being someone who is also on a robust journey, and I love that. I love that it really. I'm so touched that having gone through and going through and all the goodness and all the challenges that you go through, that at the end you have the capacity to say thank you. I mean, that speaks volumes to me. That you don't come to that depth of gratitude and understanding without a lot of, I want to say hard work, but it's more than that. I mean, you without grace, you know. So
Yeah. There's a book about grief that talks about being stretched in both directions, grief in one hand, gratitude in the other, and allowing yourself to kind of be stretched by them. Yeah, I feel like, so it's like the depth of my sorrow can just be like just tremendous joy. And so as much as I didn't ask for the journey that I'm on, I don't think you did either.
if I did, I've lost the paper somewhere because it's where.
I would have made some edits, used some whiteout maybe if it was written in pen.
Matches. I'm talking burn. It's like it's ripping pages out. Burn that one, and that chapter's gone, and that chapter's gone.
I think the challenge I feel for people that feel that maybe feel like they've had to just carry so much is like having a message that has depth and weight and doesn't scare other people away. Mm-hmm. Because I want to help people that feel like maybe I can't entirely relate to this person, but I like their message, you know? But I feel like, when get more connected to ourselves more deeply, the ways of which we kind of operate in the world just seem to come more naturally. And I know the people that I'm drawn to are not doing a lot of thinking. They're just kind of flowing through life and attracting people of all shapes and sizes and experiences. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that you asked me to be on here, and I'll be honest, I was a little scared because I'm like,
It's not that scary, is it?
no, it wasn't
No,
that bad.
You did a marvelous job. Very easy to interview.
Just
You
hit the
had
delete button at the end of this, and we'll just.
no delete, no delete, no edit, no nothing. It's great. You did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You and asked really good questions and framed this really well. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
So this is your chance, just like any last words that you want to share. Mhm.
Um, I feel like this is a time to pray. Not that there's not other things to do, but this may not be a time to act. It may be a time for contemplation. Um, but I really feel like prayer is really, really, really important right now. And that's it.
Well, can you say a little bit more? So say someone is not religious or they have been religious and prayer has an interesting connotation.
Yeah,
Can you explain what prayer is for you?
sure. Um, it can take on a variety of, of forms. I think you don't have to necessarily choose an image or have a particular, like, I know who's on the other side of this outgoing message. Um, you may not know who's going to listen. You may be kind of praying into the abyss for all you know. To me, it's not about necessarily who's at the end on the other side of it or what you believe in, but are you willing to humble yourself enough to say that, like, we may need some additional support right now as an individual person and as a collective, and that maybe, just maybe, that support could come in groups of people somehow, or it could come in some other more subtle energetic way. But prayer for me is ultimately accessing humility within myself. And when I'm humble, I start to get closer to wisdom, closer to answers, closer to next step, closer to the guidance that I need. And I feel more connected to nature and what's around me. So I think prayer can be a wonderful thing, whether you're religious or not. It's and if you don't like the act of putting your hands together, you don't have to do that. You can pray in whatever way works for you. Sometimes I just bow in front of an altar of, like, I got pictures of my my deceased dog and other little trinkets and stuff that I love that are just at this altar. So you can set up a little thing of just like things that you love and just pray in front of it, because what I've found is that anything you treat as sacred can become sacred to you. So you don't need to have a thing of Buddha or something of Jesus. It can be a note that was given to you years ago that you love and you keep it at your altar. You know, it can be anything. You can treat anything with reverence, and it becomes reverent to you, and that's what we're looking for.
And then what about those prayers that resemble temper tantrums? I've had a few.
Yeah. Well, I think we had a nice conversation about this. I mean, I was honestly saying, kind of go F yourself for a couple weeks. That was kind of my prayer. And I think it's okay to pray from a place of desperation. I think that's the whole reason for grace, is that we're not being judged in how we pray, but I'm maintaining contact. I'm maintaining this sense of humility, even though I'm saying, like, fuck you, like, I don't want you around anymore, but I'm still talking. I'm saying I want you to go away, and I'm still talking. So keeping that communication open, even if is helpful, even if it's maybe not the words you grew up with praying. It can be whatever words feel authentic to you.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you so much, my dear friend. And I'm so glad we reconnected, and I'm so appreciative that you've come and shared your journey and your wisdom.
Thank you
And
so
keep it
much.
up.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.